several minutes later. Let's try this again without me destroying this book or crying with rage. I'm the kind of person that cries when I get angry. So if I start crying, it's not because this book is good, it's because I am murderously enraged. I'm still trying to read this second paragraph, so let's see if I can read it out loud now. The Conventiculum still belonged to the immortal blessed. Treaty agreements had allowed them continued ownership of some of the places the hierarchs had given them. The Rising World Coalition had wanted them out of the war more than they wanted the territory returned. The people who had lived there before the hierarchs were all mostly dead anyway, or scattered to the winds. Martha Wells says, let the colonizers, let the fantasy Nazis, which is what the immortal blessed are, let them keep the land they have stolen if they kill enough of the fucking indigenous people and drive them into diaspora. You don't need to give the land back if you kill enough of the fucking original population. And the Rising World is supposed to be the good guys and are supposed to not be more colonizers when they clearly are, and they just let this happen. They're fine with this. They said, yeah, go ahead and take that fucking land. You killed enough of the indigenous people. It's yours now. What? Oh, the people who had lived there before the hierarchs were all mostly dead, anyway, or scattered to the winds. It's literally fine, according to Martha Wells, for colonizers to just have the fucking land if they murder enough people that I guess it's not worthwhile to give it back. Page 158. Most people don't even get this far before they stop. And these fucking horrible people are still just having a shitty, useless fucking conversation with their stupid heart walkie-talkies, and we are not supposed to give a shit about what we just fucking said. We don't care about that. That's an afterthought. We are not supposed to care. We're not supposed to be upset by that. This is fine, according to Martha Wells. This is not even a footnote. Just continue with the stupid, useless fucking conversation that is going nowhere and is never going to go anywhere. How long have we been on this fucking boat? We are on page 158. There are only 414 pages in this fucking racist book. Let me read you the next paragraph so you can see the fucking whiplash. Through her pearl, Zidi's mind felt bright and hard with suspicion and disbelief, though she let none of it show on her face. The hierarchs used those stones to keep the immortal marshals on a leash, and she just told us, where to find them. Convenient, isn't it? Kai told her, but it's given me an idea. Zidi said aloud, if we go there and ask, can we find her? I don't even... They're asking this because late Immortal Lady said the Conventiculum of the Immortals, aka the fucking island that they gave, the good guys gave to the fantasy Nazis, known by its fantasy Nazi name. They have finding stones. So now we're just continuing there. If we go there and ask, can we find her? was that?
Marlena asking for attention. Marlena.
And again, Martha Wells is just pretending that, oh, there's so much going on in this book. It's so complex. It's so deep. Look at all this political maneuvering. And it's just bullshit. If they will admit a witch or a demon, Sadrin bared her perfect teeth in an expression that was not a smile. She obviously knew something about the fucking fantasy Nazi stolen island, known now only by its fantasy Nazi name. That they didn't. But if it was just the unlikelihood of the caretakers admitting them, it was hard to tell, because we're pretending that this stupid, useless fucking conversation between a whole bunch of colonizers is going somewhere. And now we just get more bullshit that doesn't make sense. Immortal Lady said, okay, so how are you guys going to return this ship since I answered your question? Kai said, just tell us who it belongs to and where to bring it and we'll dock it. And now we're just getting this paragraph, which is the bullshit with the inconsistent narration style. Sadrin's brows knit as she searched for a way to argue with that. Period. She didn't want to claim responsibility for the ship herself. Period. It had been handed over to an expositor without the knowledge of the immortal patriarchs, comma, in violation of the Rising World Treaty and blessed law, comma, someone was going to be in deadly trouble. Period. If this were third person omniscient, that would be fine. But for this to be third person omniscient, we would have to be getting to know everything in everybody's heads at all times. Not just 99% Kai, 1% other people. This is just inconsistent writing on a very basic technical level. And it's just lazy writing because Martha Wells is just telling us this shit even though Kai shouldn't know it. Or at least it needs to be framed as this is what Kai is getting from her facial expressions. Instead, it's just being told to us as fact. And again, we're just getting dialogue that's useless. Zedi says, Immortal Lady said, I don't know who it belongs to. Not exactly, I'm paraphrasing. So Zedi says, when you find out, send me a message. I don't wish to abandon the ship where any pirate or thief could take it, because we're just going to stay on the boat forever.
We're never leaving this ship.
We're never leaving this ship. It's like, no, I will not besmirch. I will not. And then Immortal Lady's like, you cannot expect me to leave this boat in your care. Zedi says, I have not renounced my kinright. I need this ship to go to Stios and to the conventiculum and find my liege sworn wife. Immortal Lady folded her arms. Then I will remain with it because she's joining the party.
You successfully recruited an immortal Nazi.
As Twin has said sarcastically from the other side of the cardboard drop box, you have successfully recruited an immortal Nazi. Because she's a fantasy Nazi. She's one of the fantasy Nazis. And now we're going to fantasy Nazi colonized island, known now only by the name that the fantasy Nazis gave it, because the totally not evil empire over there, the good guys, the good guys, they let the fantasy Nazis keep it because they said, well, you killed enough of the original inhabitants, I guess it's yours by rights now. Because you either killed them or drove them into diaspora, so they don't matter. Who cares about them? Not Martha Wells, not any of these people. and this is supposed to be funny. Ziti says with her stupid heart walkie-talkie, "Can we fight to the death instead?" And that's supposed to be funny. That's supposed to be funny, even though we were told that any immortal blessed who finds them on this ship is going to murder them all, including the children. And then we were told contradictory things. And then we were told that they would only kill one of the children. And then these two weren't upset by that in any way, even though they're upset at being told they shouldn't be allowed near children, which is literally true. I want these two dead. Kill them. And Kai responds with his stupid heart walkie-talkie, "Only if you really want to, but I think I know a better way." And then we have a line break. And now we're still on page 159. And we're just skipping into the middle of another useless conversation. Okay. I think this is supposed to be funny. I'm not reading it out loud. Turn to page 160, class. Suffer with me. But you just said who... That's so stupid. Apparently, Ziti and Immortal Lady are having a staring contest. Ziti is in... Yeah, again. Ziti is in... I don't know what this boat looks like. I don't know what the structure of this boat is. But somehow, Ziti is in the room with the petal-carved throne. She's sitting on the throne, I guess staring out the door, which is open. And then Sadrin is standing somewhere outside near a steering column, which is apparently completely across from the throne. And they're just staring at each other, apparently. I don't know what the fuck this boat looks like or how it sits in space. I thought the steering thing was like, you have... I don't know what this... I thought, like, okay, I thought the throne room was here, and then you have outside here, and then to get to the steering thing, you had to come outside, and then there were stairs to go up here, and then you're standing on what was the roof of the throne room, and then the steering thing is up here, because that's tall, so you can see stuff. But apparently, no, it's the throne room's here. You have floor, I don't know how to angle my hand. You have floor here, and then the steering column is over here. Immortal Lady is outside, staring inside at Ziti through an open door, who's just sitting on the throne, and they're just having a staring contest. Apparently. And I guess that's funny. I guess the whole joke here is in-laws, eh? We're finally getting at least a hint of... It's not foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is something different. This is like bare minimum of setup. They're like, oh, the people at Nazi Island, Fantasy Nazi Island, they'll know a demon when they see one. And Kai says, there are ways around that. And then Ziti's like, if Fantasy Nazi Island is obviously a trap, you don't need to do that disgusting thing. And then he says it might come in handy. See, this is what's known as setup. This is fine. This is setup. We're getting some fucking hints right now on page 160 of some kind of ability that Kai has. Ew, it's probably gonna be him plucking some dead person's eyes out and sticking them in his eyes. Just came
Because
to
being
me.
gross means you're mature, right?
Yeah. That's probably what it's going to be, because that's gross. And Martha Wells seems to think that if she does gross things, it means it's a mature and serious story. This is setup. This is fine. I can't say it's good, because it's literally a bare minimum. This is setup. This is the shit that we should have had at the start of the story before we're just told that Sandra has broken toes. Sandra should have been visibly limping the whole fucking time. Maybe Kai could have looked around and realized that she was too quiet. And he looks around and she's standing there, tears streaming silently down her face, while she is clearly trying to repress everything and not make a fucking noise because she's traumatized, and those people probably beat her even more if she made noises to attract their attention. And he could notice she seemed to sit down every time he paused for even a few seconds to look around whatever stupid area they were in. And then he gives her the boots or something, and then gets a look at her feet for the first time to realize that she's walking on broken toes and is in fucking agony. That's the setup that would have been required for that reveal. Or skip past all of that by just have them not leave the initial fucking room, and she stays on the fucking floor even when Kai's like, you can get up, I'm not gonna hurt you. And then she stays on the fucking floor, and he's like, what's wrong? What, you can stand, I'm not gonna hurt you. And then realizes, oh, she can't stand because her toes are broken, maybe even a broken leg. But I'm doing Martha Wells' job for her, and she doesn't give a shit about Sandra. She doesn't give a shit about any of these people. This is setup. What I'm trying to say here is, on page 160, just like on page 139, we're finally getting some bare minimum writing. This is setup. We have now had some setup, a hint that Kai will have some fucking ability at some point in the future that will let him hide the demon eyes that are the only thing that lets you know he's a demon, because water isn't actually a fucking weakness. That's bare minimum. That's fine. I can't say it's good, because it should have happened way before page 160. We're this far into the book. Page 207 will be the halfway point. I summoned her into existence because Martha Wells needs to remind us that Sandra exists. Sandra poked her head out of a cabin. Can I come out? She's not going to kill us? Tenez patted the cushion between her and Kai, and Sandra came to plop down on it. I forgot Tenez was already not hiding, because she wasn't involved in that whole train wreck of a conversation at all, and there was nothing done to remind us that she was standing there the whole time. Because Martha Wells doesn't care about her. She's not a character. She's a mascot. She's just a box to tick off the found family checkbox. They have to adopt some kids. Check. Even though nobody cares about them, and the one person who does seem to care about them, Hashem, needs to be demonized, and I'll just fucking continue. Page 161, we're finally, and this is a short page, which means we're going to get another chapter next. Ramad is joining in on the uselessness of uselessness. Ramad, page 161. Ramad clearly found all this increasingly dubious. Are you certain you want to trust her? The stones might not be there at all, and the place is surrounded by witch flags, so she obviously knows you can't get in. This kinrite doesn't seem to restrict her from lying to you. Because Martha Wells needs to drag this shit out as long as possible by having the characters not do the goddamn story, so they're just gonna keep doing this forever. And then immediately following that is just the statement in prose, not dialogue. They needed to stop talking about this before Ramad figured out they had another plan. Kai said very sarcastically, that's not the very sarcastically is me. The immortal blessed are such wonderful people that they need all these rules telling them not to murder their own relatives. Whatever. And he and ZD are having a useless conversation I'm not going to read out loud. Finally, page 162, chapter 8. Page 162. Just to remind us that she exists. Sandra whistled in startled admiration. It's so big. I thought nothing was bigger than the mouth of flowers, because they're talking about the city that they're sailing up to. Maybe we're finally getting off the fucking boat. So she knows how to whistle. But her toes are still broken. Frowning, Sandra added slowly, "It is all empty." His voice wry, Ramad asked her, "Did you think we weren't telling you the truth?" Sandra continues, No, but I just couldn't really picture it in my head." "They killed everyone?" "Everyone," Kai said. "It's a big, beautiful grave marker." Shut up, Martha Wells. It was much written about in its day. Ramad's expression was regretful. They said no one ever went hungry there. Food was so plentiful everyone got a share of millet and teff whenever they needed, just like getting water from the well. The methods for it were adopted by the great Bashasa to feed the refugees and partitions, and are still used across the Arik and other Rising World territories today. And then Kai, for literally no reason, is just trying to annoy him. For no reason. So we called this an empty city, and there are in fact people living here. We're claiming this is an empty city that no one lives in, and there's people living here. Page 164. We're turning fucking pages. On page 164, we are getting Ziti doing some kind of magic. Kai turned to Ziti, who stood a short distance away, sketching a finding circle in the palm of her hand with a mix of spit and blood. Tenez was at her elbow, watching with interest. Because we have to be reminded Tenez exists, because she doesn't exist. Trying to think of a fucking word. Like escalation, but not escalation. Martha Wells has no sense of scale, I guess. Ziti's using this little thing she's making on her hand of blood and spit to just send out air spirits, to do stuff, even though she hasn't had to do anything else for the ones steering the boat. Now she does, because it's dramatic. She's sending them out to just go scout and tell her what kind of predators are nearby and what kind of dangers there are. She said some soul stealer. This is still page 164 at the very bottom. Some soul stealer ghosts, bone-eating vines. Not really anything too terrible. Because she's giving these things dramatic names like soul-stealing ghosts and bone-eating vines. And then these guys don't think they're a big deal because they're Martha Wells' protagonists, so they are already level 100. They are the top tier. We're supposed to think that they're the coolest people ever, even though they haven't done anything. If this were a Skyrim fanfiction, no, not even a Skyrim fanfiction, if this were a Fallout 4 fanfiction, because Fallout 4 has no level cap, these people would be the equivalent of somebody level 186. Maybe, let's say, level 132, like I got the first time, with no cheats, before my game crashed, because Bethesda sucks. Yeah, this is the first book. We've been given no reason to like these characters, and Martha Wells wants us to be so impressed because, just some soul-stealing ghosts, some bone-eating vines, they don't care. They're already level 100. They're already, I don't know how levels work in Dungeons and Dragons. They're already OP. They've already dealt with all of this shit. They eat soul-stealing ghosts and bone-eating vines for breakfast. They're not even concerned. Martha Wells doesn't seem to grasp that scale is a thing. The reason you start off in just Skyrim, because I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, the reason in Skyrim, I don't even think it's in Skyrim, because reason you start off in most video games fighting some giant rats is because the giant rats will be hard enough on their own. And then you'll fight maybe some dogs, and then wolves, and then, I don't know, lions. You increase the scale. You start at the bottom with the lowest level things, the easiest things to fight, and then you increase as you get better. And as the scale goes up, and Martha Wells thinks she can start us out, can start these characters out when we don't even know anything about them besides that they're child abusers, by telling us, oh yeah, soul-stealing ghosts, bone-eating vines, they don't care. They don't even blink at that because they're so cool. They're so strong. You should be so impressed. Except we can't be impressed because we weren't here to see these people struggle against the level 1 rats. We've never seen them have to fight, I don't know, fish. I don't know. I don't fucking... We haven't seen them progress to the point that they can... The only reason it can be cool and feel like an accomplishment to not be scared of things called soul-stealing ghosts and bone-eating vines is A, if our characters almost died to them before, and we've watched them learn and grow and get stronger, and now they know how to deal with those things. Or B, if it's from an naturalist perspective where a bone-eating vine is just a thing that will just so happen to eat your bones if you happen to die there. That's it. But there's no way to say that soul-stealing ghosts are naturally unthreatening. So this is just Martha Wells trying to make the character seem cool by telling us, oh, they kill everything. And it's like, yeah, that's not compelling. They have not struggled for anything. So them winning can't mean anything. Oh, I see. That setup I mentioned earlier as being bare minimum, well, it turns out she's not doing setup, she's doing a puzzle box. Kai responds to Zedi saying, there's some soul-eating ghosts and bone-eating vines, not really anything too terrible. Kai says, there has to be at least one. And then, not dialogue, they clung to the fringes of death wells like cockroaches to mittens. So they're looking for some specific kind of monster that is going to be used in some way to make it so Kai doesn't look like a demon by hiding his eyes. And Martha Wells isn't going to tell us what it is they're looking for until they find it, which is exactly the opposite of how to do setup. Continuing the proper bare minimum setup would be to tell us what they're looking for so that when they find it, we can go, oh, that's the thing they were looking for. But instead, she's just keeping it secret for no reason because I guess that sounds clever. So they're just going to be able to say literally, she the author, is just going to be able to say that literally anything at all, that she just pulls out a hat at any moment. That's going to be the thing they were looking for. And she was too fucking lazy to just scroll back up the document and edit in, we're looking for XYZ. Hush, Zedi told him. Wait, here we are. Blah, blah, blah. She did stuff on her hand, turning it into a map. That's the old road, that's the river, and here it is. So she's found a thing on the map without any... It's bad dialogue again. Kai looked at the map, blah blah, I'm paraphrasing, blah blah, it's not very accurate, but once he got closer, he would be able to track the predator. So they're looking for a predator. What kind of predator? Martha Wells isn't going to tell us until they get there, which is for no reason. Telling us now would be the setup. He's looking for a thing called a thing. It looks like blah blah blah. He had been told about them, or he'd used them before. Just anything to make this part of the story connected to the next part of the story, by more than just we were here and now we're here. You need to put connections. We know a thing here, so that's going to be helpful here, because the story needs all the connections it can get, considering every time the water issue is brought up, it's completely different, and there's no logic, and Sanja's broken toes, and the fact that we were first assured multiple times that immortal marshals would want to kill everybody on the boat, then we're told they would only want to kill Kai and Ziti, and then we're told they would only want to kill Kai and Ziti and Tenez, and we shouldn't be concerned about that. And then she shows up and she doesn't kill anybody, even though she wasn't one of the specific people they seem to be trying to get. There's some free audiobooks by a current author here on YouTube, and they're not great, but they are free. And I forget what her fucking name is, and I can't actually recommend them, but they are free, and I was going to buy them simply to support the author whenever I get money to support the author, because she put them on YouTube for free, because they're posted by the author herself. She paid people to make the audiobooks for her, and she's posting them for free on here. And I was going to buy the books whenever I have money just to support her, because it's great. You're giving these books to everybody on YouTube for free for people who don't have money. That's awesome. I was going to give her money until she did the bury your gays trope, and then just so much. So much to the only two gay characters in the entire fucking thing. So much. I'm not going to talk about it right now. But she had the same problem Martha Wells did. It's a fantasy setting. There's monsters. People fight. The problem was we never got any setup for what kind of monsters we could possibly expect to find in this world. They're just walking along and boom, there's a monster. And it's just whatever the hell the author wanted and thought was cool and scary. And then they beat it. And then the plot continues. And then boom, there's suddenly another monster. And again, it's just random. It's not the same kind as before. We haven't discussed any potential monsters. It's just being drawn out of a hat on the instant that it's required. The Final Fantasy Battlestart music starts playing, and there's just a monster, and it's just got a random mix of characteristics. It seems like it has just fallen out of the air into the story, because nothing in the story has ever prepared us for any kind of these monsters that we fight. If you're going to write a story where there's magical animals, monsters that people are going to meet, and you intend for your characters to fight them, or even just see them, have the characters have a basic monster field guide. I don't care if you're starting with a level 1 character, or if you're doing it from the perspective of a master who's teaching other people. Give us a goddamn list of some of the fucking monsters in the world. Even just mention their fucking names. Literally just mention their names in passing. That's good enough. That's linking the here to the here. You are giving stability to the world by giving, what is the fucking word I'm looking for? You are adding just adding things. The more points you have on your fucking map, the more stable it is. The more it feels like an actual world that makes sense. If every time you need a monster, you just make something up out of thin air, literally, in that instant, in the document, piece of paper, wherever you're writing it, you just throw together something without any hint, anywhere, ever, that is a thing that exists. Unless it is a brand new species that nobody has ever seen before. That's just bad writing, and it's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel disjointed and disconnected. It's not going to feel like anything that can be predicted or makes sense. Your writers won't be able to trust your world. And not even in the sense that you're lying, which Martha Wells is doing here. Those free books online, I don't know what they're called. I can't tell you. I don't even know The name's like an M. Might be Megan Linsky, but don't quote me on that. They're not well written, but they are free. And I was going to buy them until she decided to just be ragingly fucking homophobic. The point I'm trying to say here on page 165 is that we're just told that Kai's gonna go and get some predator that will do something. And Martha Wells is not taking the chance to continue the setup she started correctly, bare minimum, but technically correct. And instead of continuing that setup, which is the correct course of action here, she should be telling us what kind of monster he's going to go and look for. She should be telling us what it looks like, what its name is. Have Sanja or Tenez ask, because we haven't seen their names mentioned in a while, so she needs to remind us that they exist. To continue that bare minimum setup, she needs to tell us what he's going after, but she's not telling us what he's going to go and do. It's just, once he got closer, he would be able to track the predator. Just telling us it's a predator, that's not setup. That's turning this into a fucking puzzle box. A trick puzzle box. He can just go wander around in the woods, and anything that he sees, we don't know which one he's looking for. So he could walk across a deer, he could walk across a wolf, he could walk across a magical pond with unicorns prancing in the reflection. We won't know which of these things is what he's been looking for until Martha Wells decides that it's time for him to have found what he's looking for, and we'll just have to sit there and not be able to participate in any way. We won't get a sense of, oh, I know what that is. That's what they mentioned. Hey, they said it would have blue fur. That thing's got blue fur. Maybe that's it. Anything like that. But no. Okay, she did remember that she does need to remind us that Tenez and Sanja help, so Kai is just turning to sign to Tenez in the witch speak, because I guess it's just making me sad. I guess people are only going to talk to Tenez in what seems to be her native language when it's being used to go behind other people's backs. Not just because she deserves to be included in the conversations, just because we don't want other people to know what they're saying. That's just making me sad. He signed to Tenez. It's gonna make me cry. It's just fucking infuriating. So many levels. He signed to Tenez. Try to get the supplies together without Sadrin noticing. Sanja can help. Because who gives a shit? Martha Wells sure as fuck does not. She doesn't care about disabled people. She literally won't even pretend to care about disabled people long enough to just include this, just let anybody speak to this child in the language that she can speak to them back in. Kai and Zedi both speak witch speak, presumably. I don't think we've seen Zedi use it, but she's a witch. So let's fucking assume that she knows it. Why are they only speaking to her in witch speak, this fucking sign language? This child who has had her voice stripped violently from her by the man who enslaved her, and the only time they will deign to speak to her on her fucking level is when they are trying to keep secrets from other people, not just because she deserves to talk to people. We have not seen a single scene of Sanja learning to speak to her. Sanja can't talk to Tenez. Tenez can't talk to Sanja. The only two fucking people that Tenez and Sanja have to get either Zedi or Kai to translate between them if these two children want to talk to each other. We have no scenes of them bonding. No scenes of them sitting and Tenez teaching Sanja. ZD and Kai could help. We're not getting any of that. I'm getting a drink. Sit there. Hold on, they left like all the lights in the room on. Unnecessary. We don't need all these lights on, kitties. Still on page 165. We're supposed to like Kai and ZD. The cadre members leaned over the side of the boat I'm adding in, trying to get the gangway positioned. Kai thought that they should have attached the hooks to the rungs on the deck first, but it was a little late to offer that advice now. Immortal Lady, I'm just calling her that, you don't need to memorize her name, just watched with an unhelpful sneer. Sanja had gone closer to see, but was too innately cautious to get within arm's reach of any of them. They are trying to set up the gangplank so that they can get the people who are still trapped in torture stasis off the boat to safety, away from the immortal murder person and this witch and demon who torture people in front of children. And they don't know how to do it. And Kai knows how to do it. But he is not helping. At the bottom of page 165, they're looking at the people trying to attach the gangplank. ZD says, we're giving them what they want. The words, they have no reason to attack us, were unspoken. Kai says, when has that ever made a difference? Because again, we are pretending that Kai and ZD are oppressed minorities because they are a witch and a demon who purposefully antagonize fantasy Nazis that would already want to kill all of the people on this ship, including innocent bystanders, including children, and they are just abusing children, but we're supposed to pretend that they are oppressed minorities because people rightfully and correctly fear them and want nothing to do with them because they are fucking child abusers who torture people in front of children for no reason and refuse to let people, including children, out of the area of danger when they are going to purposefully summon a murderous, immortal person that has been established over and over again, wants to kill everybody aboard the fucking boat. Page 166. She's trying to be funny again. ZD says, just take care. If you're killed in a ridiculous way by a mere ghoul, it will be embarrassing for all of us. because Martha Wells thinks that she can just make these characters unrepenting, unceasing assholes and horrible people from the very start who struggle with nothing and then thinks that we'll like them and think this is funny. We are told this is an empty city. Nobody lives here. You know who lives here? Ramad and Hashem had reached the retaining wall and climbed down to speak to the fishers. Some had the darker brown skin of local Arkai, with a few lighter archipelago natives scattered among them. Empty city. Nobody lives here, except for the people who live here. But they don't count. For some fucking reason. Apparently Kai walks around barefoot because he needs to feel the currents of the land. Information we're only getting on page 166, when it would have been effortless to establish that on chapter 1 he could have... I shouldn't have to do Martha Wells' job for her, but I have to. In the very first chapter, when Kai just took over the body of the unnamed fucking person, could also be a child for all we fucking know. When Kai took over the body of the boy who was tortured and kidnapped along with Sanja, and then they were both kept in a cell together in the bottom of the fucking shell on the back of the fucking whale for weeks? Days? Who knows? Very convenient that Sanja doesn't give a shit about that guy, isn't it? If Martha Wells wanted to establish that Kai runs around barefoot so that he can have magic access to the currents of the earth, she could have done that in chapter 1, when he gets into the boy's body and after killing everybody, like literally before 6.5 pages are through of the whole book total, give Sanja the boots, actually reveal that her toes are broken, show fucking compassion for this child who has been tortured. Give her boots. If not, magically heal her toes, because we don't need to magically heal everything. Bind and splint her fucking toes. I don't know how you treat broken toes. I presume it's like any other broken bone. I don't need to know because I'm not the one writing this book. I didn't write this book. I don't need to know how to set broken toes because I didn't write a book where I casually tell you that a child has broken toes. Just have Kai give her boots because neither of them were wearing shoes. Just have her say so simply, "Wait, what about you? You don't have any shoes." Have him say, "That's okay, I don't need them. I can use magic better. If I don't have them, I'll be able to protect us better without them." That's it. But instead, we're getting this basic information about our literal main character on page 166. Above my thumb. That's how far into this book we find out that Kai doesn't wear shoes. You'll notice the same thing with the Murderbot Diaries, because this is not an exceptionally bad Martha Wells book. This is par for the course. She's just fucked up the basic premise of give us a reason to sympathize with these characters before making them assholes. Kai and Ziti are no different from many other Martha Wells protagonists. The only difference between them, which doesn't make a difference at all, insert Daniel Greystone quote, the only difference here is that she forgot she needs to give them a tragic backstory off the fucking bat to make us feel bad for them, so that maybe we will overlook all of the horrible things they are doing. I'll continue fucking reading. Again, we were told this is an empty city where nobody's living. And then, yeah, there's... His route to the big avenue took him past the market pavilion. Inside were a few elders and children, and bags, baskets, drying laundry, a hearth built from salvaged stone, and other debris of a long-term camp. These people had been living here for a while. More than a year, probably. And we're just pretending that nobody's ever lived in this city since it was genocided, because Martha Wells is racist. And they're not acting like this is a surprise. This isn't a new development. This isn't... It's nothing. It's not... Kai was glad to see these old walls being given new life. Nothing. This isn't anything. This is not anything. It's empty. Why isn't this? Why aren't people moving back in and living and having and using this fucking city? It's nothing. They don't count. This is an empty city. There are no people here. The presence of these people here is not a revelation. It's not a new event. They don't count. Page 166. When this city was... Remember what I said earlier about if I start crying, it's not a compliment to this book? Why is my eye burning? Turn to page 166, class. We are casually being informed that the fantasy Nazis, the hierarchs, what is the fucking phrasing? None of these have capital letters. They had turned the city into a major power well when they killed everyone in this city by committing genocide. But they did not use up all of the power in that uncapitalized magic, what'd you say they were even saying? Major power well, because Martha Wells won't even use the word magic. They did not use up all of this energy that they got from genociding the fucking city and mass slaughtering everyone in the city. We are casually being told this, like it is not a big deal, and Kai is casually going to use this uncapitalized major power well that is the result of genocide, the life force of everyone who was killed in this fucking city by the fucking magical fantasy Nazis, and he's going to casually access this life force of genocide that is the result of genocide, and he's going to use it for whatever disgusting thing that Martha Wells refuses to elaborate on until it happens. And ZD has established that we don't need to do this. We are even told right now on page 166, the hierarchs had turned Orentuck into a major power well, but never completely drained it. Kai had wondered if that would be the case. He could have done this working without it, but an exterior power source would make it easier. He does not need to use the life force of victims of genocide for whatever disgusting thing he is going to do that we have established he doesn't even need to do. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to do this. But he's going to. And this is casual. This is just casual. Martha Wells doesn't care. This character doesn't care. We're not supposed to care. And this book was published in 2023. Now on page 167. I presume this is supposed to be a joke of Kai wondering, do the immortal blessed even use brooms? I guess that's supposed to be funny. He's going around in a swampy area looking for some fucking decayed boat thing. I just have to read. The docks had mostly rotted away under the constant force of the river, and rushes grew along the banks and between the wrecked remnants of barges. Kai picked his way through the silt, searching for the right one. It wasn't the state of decay he was interested in, but the remaining residents. A barge that had been used longer, preferably by the same set of mortals, would have the most willingness to return to its former state. He found one half sunken, not much Not much left of it but the long, curved prow and the ribs. Ankle deep in mud, Kai squelched closer until he could put his hand on the sun-dried wood. Yes, this one. He climbed up to the bank and spent some time clearing a spot on the broken pavement, wishing he had thought to borrow a broom. Did the immortal blessed even use brooms? Kai didn't think he had seen anything like one on the ship. Once that was done, he drew his knife and made a mixture of his blood, spit, and the mud the barge had been decomposing in to draw a cantrip roughly the size of the original craft, leaving one small section open. This was a combination of an expositor's intention and a witch's working. The cantrip let him speak to what was left of the barge's inhabiting spirit, to draw it out and let it shape itself inside his design, where he could feed it the power like an intention, drawn from the well of death that had formed inside Orintuck. Because when fantasy Nazis slaughter an entire city and everyone in it, and use their deaths to create a well of magical power with which to commit genocide against other people, it's totally fine for the heroes of our story that we're supposed to like. It's fine for them to just use this life force. It's fine for them to take this result of genocide and use it for something the author can't even tell us what they're going to do before they do it. When they don't need to use that power, they don't need to use these people's death and suffering. And what is this going to do? Is he trying to summon a stupid fucking boat so that they can get off that boat just to get onto another one so that we just don't do anything? Hi, Marlena. Are you gonna sit over here? Hi. Hi. What are you doing? That's my bookmark. I need that. Thank you. Thank you. Can you move your feet? Thank you. Don't nuzzle the book too much. Thank you. Your food's right there. Look. Oh, okay, you ate it all. Here, come here, good girl. There you go. Once the spirit had fully entered the cantrip, Kai closed it off with the last of the blood mixture. With everything in place, there wasn't much more to do than wait. But he had one more errand, one that would explain his absence. Turning the page. Another probably supposed to be funny joke. Ramad hadn't been joking about the gourds. Kai found himself tripping over their vines every other step. Because earlier when Kai was trying to antagonize Ramad for no reason, he said, "Oh, I heard they had honey and almonds here for some fucking reason," and then Ramad's like, "Oh, they actually grew gourds." It's nothing. This is just dumb. Page 168. This is just bad. That's not how cicadas work. Kai's wandering around. The brush and tall grass gave way to larger trees with smooth reddish bark and heavy branches twisting down to rest on the ground. The thick canopies blocked out the sunlight, leaving the path winding through a dim green cavern, noisy with the roar of singing cicadas. Alright. If you're gonna mention cicadas, you better fucking mention that they are audible from a distance. They're kind of fucking known for that. That's just irritating as somebody who keeps getting woken up by them. Cicadas are not something you only notice when you're directly below them. Tell us. Give us some fucking setup. Basic, bare minimum setup. In the distance, he could see trees, and even this far away, he could hear the roar of the cicadas. As he got closer, the droning grew louder. It's that fucking simple. And then we just get a line. He wondered if the people who had lived here had harvested them to eat the way they did in Arathi. Because, whoa, look, those indigenous coded people eat cicadas. It doesn't matter, though, because they've all been genocided, so why are we even bothering? Why? What is the point in us knowing this? They're all dead. We're never going to meet them. They don't actually matter. The only reason those indigenous coded people existed in the first place was to give Kai a tragic backstory. But we're supposed to think his tragic backstory of being trafficked as a child into a eugenics program made by pedophiles. That's not the tragic backstory. The tragic backstory is that the indigenous coded people were genocided for things they actually were doing, because that's totally how genocide works, guys. All the genocides in the world happened for things that the people who were victims of genocide were actually doing. All indigenous people everywhere, totally cannibals, guys. Totally making deals with the devils, guys. Totally fucking sacrificing people to get demons and witches to help them. Totally real. That's definitely how genocide works. She doesn't know what. Kai's walking through this forest and has summoned a chorus of imps. That's not what I'm complaining about, but just so you fucking know that the magical imp summoning ability's back. Page 168 still. Well-traveled pathways often created a sense of disturbance that he could feel cutting through the flow of energy in the earth. Why? Why would that happen? If anything, well-traveled paths should create stronger connections between the magic and the earth, because by saying it's creating a disturbance for people and animals. Does Martha Wells know that people aren't the only ones that create forest trails? Does she know that? Because by saying a trail through the woods that presumably people made and walked on, that creates a disturbance in the magical life force of the earth. That's saying that people are harming the earth by literally just existing. That's going against the whole fucking... the indigenous coded people she made up. They were so in tune with nature that you can't find any archaeological evidence or even just basic signs that they existed besides some arrowheads and rusted tools if you look really hard. But now you're saying that having trails through the forest is creating a disturbance in the life force of the earth? Do you know what deer trails are? Do you know that animals of all kinds create and use trails because it's literally just the path of least resistance? If one fucking thing goes through the forest and snaps a bunch of twigs and branches and tramples plants, next animal to come along is gonna have the option of over here, push through all this fucking shit. Oh look, somebody broke all those twigs, I'll go that way, and less likely to get poked in the eye. On and on and on and on. It's just the path of least resistance. What is she even saying here? That's literally what she's saying. She's literally saying that it creates disturbance. But well-traveled pathways often created a sense of disturbance that he could feel cutting through the flow of energy in the earth. Period. But these pathways weren't well-traveled anymore. Period. The maze of small roads and walkways for surrounding villages and farms was overgrown. Period. The big stone-paved road that had once led towards the next major RK city was still there, unused and slowly being overtaken by grass. Period. In that state, it was far less disruptive to the land's flow of power, so harder to sense. Literally saying that genocide is good because the lack of people maintaining roads is good for the life force of the earth. This is ecofascism. Ecofascism. Genocide is good because it stops people from disrupting the flow of life energies in the earth by using roads and trails and paths, because people are separate from the environment, as we all know. This is 1 hour and 17 minutes. The puzzle box. He slipped, blah, fucking blah, and made his way toward the predator ZD had located. What kind of predator? We're not going to get a single fucking hint until he stumbles upon it, because not telling your audience things makes you clever, right? Martha Wells seems to fucking think so. I have cat fur stuck on my nose. $169. Kai knew he was close to the spot marked on ZD's map when he felt a sense of malicious intent. Because, whatever, I don't know. What kind of monster, what kind of predator are we gonna meet, guys? We don't know. Because Martha Wells is bad at writing. And has just put an impossible puzzle box in front of us. He's found some kind of hut in the middle of the woods with a curtain of leather drape that smelled of rotted human skin, because Martha Wells thinks if she does gross things, that means it's a mature and serious story. Immediately followed by Kai thinking sarcastically, this must be the place. What do you know? I was correct. Once he goes into the thing. Blah, it's covered in mold. It's apparently a body-stealing ghouls horde. Instead of a soul-stealing ghost, it's a body-stealing ghoul. And there's arms, legs, hands, and feet. And just a bunch of organs like hearts and livers, tongues, entire heads. I don't know why entire heads are included in the organs category instead of the body parts category. And finally, eyes. How convenient. There was no buzz of flies or crawling maggots. The ghoul's inherent intent kept its bounty from spoiling. Shut the fuck up. The Hierarch's legionaries had always talked of how horrific the Under-Earth was, when their own homegrown monsters were so much worse. This is where we get the useless edgy for this. So a ghoul is not a monster or a predator. So she was a... Bless you. It's a cat sneezing. She was lying when she was calling it a predator, letting us presume as some carnivorous wild animal. It's just a person, presumably, considering we just referred to it as a homegrown monster, implying it's just a regular fucking person. It's just a random fantasy Nazi. It looked like an ordinary male mortal, maybe a little more well-fed and prosperous than was normal for this empty land, because nobody lives here, remember? All the people living here don't count. His long cotton... Hi? You gonna say hi? Are you just gonna leave? Nope, she's leaving. His long cotton tunic and wrapped skirt less ragged. His graying hair was tied back and his face was weathered. If he hadn't been carrying a dead mortal body, there would have been nothing unusual about him. And then, blah, blah, blah. He happens to be speaking Old Imperial, a thing we have no context for. Drops a dead body and says, "Oh, look, a customer!" Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, "Oh, a customer. What are you gonna offer me so that, to make you worth more as a buyer instead of being added to my collection?" And then we get this shit from nowhere. Kai was suddenly sick of these grabby mortal predators, huddled in their filth, greedy for pain. He called the scattered imps to him. As their little bodies filled the hut with light, he said, "So you get many customers out here? I thought this was more a hobby than a vocation." The ghoul made a gargling noise and whipped around to flee. Kai reached to find the tendrils of design and intent around the creature and pulled. The ghoul froze in place. Kai stepped closer, circled to face his prey, and wrapped his hand around the ghoul's throat. "Do mortals just walk into your charnel house all the time? Am I one? Am I stupid? The ghoul choked out, "I didn't know you were a—" "Say it," Kai smiled. "A demon." "You idiot." Kai leaned closer to whisper, "I'm the demon." Page 170. Martha Wells is so impressed with that fucking quote. The most immature and edgy and should be a joke quote ever, and she is so impressed with it, and it appears on page 170 after we suddenly get Kai was suddenly sick of these grabby mortal predators. That's the statement. Grabby mortal predators. Suddenly sick of them, as though this isn't the first second that we've ever had any inkling that they even existed. Literally just that guy existed from page 169 to page 170, and page 170 isn't even a full page. That's the only time this type of thing has ever existed in this world for the entirety of this book, because she didn't even tell us beforehand that he was going to look for a ghoul. And then we get that useless fucking line. And now we're going to the past again. On page 171, the past, the battle. So, last time we were in the past, we went back to the stupid future where they just sit around on a boat not doing anything. Right as they were going to run off to free the other demons who have been enslaved and tortured into comatoseness in the Cageling Demon Court. Let's read the fucking thingamajig at the top of this bullshit, and we'll see if they're actually going to, if we're ever actually going to get them see rescuing any of these demons, and if these demons are going to get to do anything besides all die to make Kai special. The immortal marshal's part in the Hierarch's war was always in dispute. ... The immortal blessed have always valued isolation and claimed superiority, setting themselves above the rest of the world. They would never want to admit to being as helpless before the force of the Hierarch's invasion. Hello. Bye. I'm just gonna walk past. You gonna sit with me? You can sit with me. Thanks for sneezing in my face. You gonna sit with me, or are you just gonna do paws? Hi. Are you gonna sit with me? You can sit down. Hello. You gonna sit? Am I comfy enough? You gonna sit down? You just gonna stare at me? Hello. Oh, yay. You're gonna sit with me. Yay. You're gonna sit with me? Yay. Hello. I have been chosen. Thank you. You're so cute. You can become a lap cat yet? That's a camera. That's just my face in the camera. You don't need to be scared. That's my face. She's staring. Yeah, that's you now. That's you. I don't think she passes the mirror test. She's turning her face away. She does not want to see two of my face. Thank you. Oh, she's turning back around. You just gonna sit here? Thank you. Thank you, cutie. Alright, I'm going to read again. Okay. I'll just restart that. The immortal marshal's part in the Hierarch's war was always in dispute. ... The immortal blessed have always valued isolation and claimed superiority, setting themselves above the rest of the world. Period. They would never want to admit to being as helpless before the force of the Hierarch's invasion as the mortal lands. It was an unprecedented concession when the immortal marshals eventually revealed that they initially resisted the hierarchs, but were ordered to capitulate when they found themselves unable to protect the blessed lands from attack. There was no shame, the whole of the known world was helpless then, but the immortal marshals were seen to serve the hierarchs, so the immortal blessed will always be viewed as willing allies to their conquerors. That Taren Stargard rebelled when she did is their soul-saving grace. Martha Wells is so racist. Writings of Weranan, historian of Cedel Arik. That's on page 171. So now we're making excuses for the immortal fantasy Nazis, saying, oh no, they're just poor little babies. They didn't have any choice but to help commit multiple genocides. Feel bad for them. I got so baffled I forgot this was supposed to be in the past. Now you got fur all over me. Thank you. That's so stupid. Taren just decapitated 2 people with 1 blow, because why should the heroes have to struggle for anything? They can just start out the story level 100, right? Right? That's totally interesting and meaningful. Page 172. I have turned the page. I shouldn't have to keep stopping. There's a magical barrier that's invisible on a gate thing, and ZD has to do stuff to lower it so they can go through without setting off alarms. Fine. She says, I'm able to take down the barrier. That's how I got in here, because I guess she wasn't a prisoner. I guess apparently nobody knows that ZD's in here. I thought she was a prisoner. She just snuck in and was hanging out in a room all by herself for fun. She's not a prisoner in there. And she's like, yeah, I can take down the barrier. Bashasa snuck me in, blah blah. And then Taren says, it's why they kill witches. And then everybody looks at her like she just said something wrong. It's a basic statement. They kill witches because witches can take down their barriers. This is not a complicated statement. It's not a controversial statement, but Martha Wells wants us to pretend that ZD and Taren are the enemies to lovers trope. So they're just gonna... Stupid. What are you knocking over? So in the past, they're hiding the fact that Kai is a demon by just putting a sheer gold belt around his face like it's a veil. Basic shit. We are successfully on page 173. I guess no matter what Taren says, no matter how nothing it is, everybody's gonna act like she's saying bad things so that Martha Wells can pretend this is enemies to lovers even though she's not saying bad things. I'm not going to read it. Turn to page 173. Control F. The temple halls and the imperial halls. No commas. She keeps trying to be funny, but we've managed to turn to page 174. Martha Wells is so misogynistic. 174. Zedi said, Kai, did Bashasa tell you how he and the immortal Marshal got you out of the Cageling court without anyone knowing? Kai says, he left a dead body in my place. Zedi says, yes, it was his sister's body. Because nothing says feminism like killing off female characters to make male characters feel bad in 2023 from an author who pretends to be feminist by making fictional matriarchies where misogyny is okay because we do it to men instead of women. Still on page 174. Zedi glanced down at Kai, his younger sister. How much younger, Martha Wells? Because you keep trying to backtrack on the pedophilia. This is so misogynistic. We're getting... Turn to page 174. Zedi glanced down at Kai, his younger sister. She was weapon training with a few of her soldiers in a practice court they were given access to. Some servant nobles from the hierarch's court appeared and challenged them, and supposedly to a friendly sparring bout. The girl was struck in the stomach and the back with the end of a short spear. She seemed well at first, then became badly ill and died a day later. Bashasa has no doctor of his own, and the one provided by the palace was useless. Because killing... Zedi is referring to this person who has been killed as a girl, so another child, presumably, maybe a teenager. Child. Because nothing says feminism like killing off young girls to make men sad in 2023. Still on page 174. This one's at least not bigotry, it's just shit writing. Shit writing. Another group of nobles and legionaries passed, these in a kind of dress Kai didn't recognize. Long gauzy robes in rich greens and pale yellows, their heads shaved, gold circlets standing out against dark skin. Okay, alright, okay. Now, listening to Ziti, Kai barely took them in. Then why are we getting such a detailed description of people that are just walking past them? If Kai is barely taking them in, then why are we getting such a detailed description? Because this is the exact opposite of the shit she's doing in the Murderbot Diaries, where she's claiming that it just makes sense. Because she's already seen all of her thousands of stands defending her shit writing by making this excuse. Now she has literally picked up the excuse herself and is pretending it's true. She claims that the reason there's no descriptions of anything at all or world building in the Murderbot Diaries is that Murderbot just wouldn't notice. And yet here Kai explicitly shouldn't be noticing, but then we're still getting these descriptions of people. If Kai is too everything to notice, we shouldn't be getting descriptions of anybody walking past. And we've gotten multiple descriptions of people walking past. That's just the only one I read out loud. It should be. The only thing Kai could do was focus on Ziti's words and putting one foot in front of the other. Everybody around them was a blur of indistinct color that he could not focus on. Page 175, we're continuing. Page 175. Blah, blah, fuckity, blah. Bashasa paid a lesser expositor to put his sister's body in stasis. Then, this is just Ziti talking. Ziti is expositing now. I think that's when Bashasa had the idea to free the demons in the Cageling court. She tightened her grip on Kai's hand. He said he had seen the demons and thought it was cruel and typical of the hierarchs, and a great pity that they couldn't be let out to ravage the hierarch's elite, who took so much interest in staring at them. And he felt that way before they killed his sister. So she starts the sentence out. That's when he got the idea, maybe to free the other slaves. And then ends the sentence with, oh, but actually he felt that way the whole time. So now we are just clearly saying Bashasa isn't freeing the demons because it's the right thing to do. He's freeing them because he's hoping that they'll just kill all the bad guys for him. Even though we established that the rest of the demons in the cage are comatose from literally getting tortured 24/7 for who knows how long for most of them. They are not going to be able to walk, let alone kill anyone. We established that. But Martha Wells is so racist. I don't give a shit. Martha Wells is trying to say, oh, being a man whose sister has died. for man pain is just like being an actual slave, getting tortured. Alright, we're finally getting a description of the Cageling Demon Court, starting on page 175 at the very bottom. At the top of the... and continuing on to page 176. At the top of the stairs they crossed into the roofed gallery, placed here specifically for the entertainment of the court, so they could look down on the captured demons and admire the hierarch's power without getting wet. The open balustrade allowed a view down onto the court where the light rain and mist fell in continuous waves. Kai kept his eyes on Taren's tense back and his gaze averted from the huddled, chained figures on the pavement. That's twice. You just repeated yourself. He kept his eyes on Taren's back and his gaze averted? That's the same thing. His eyes is his gaze. Nobody edited this. There were several servant nobles here now, leaning against the balustrade and deep in conversation, as if the view wasn't any different from the garden court with the ornamental streams. Blah, blah, blah. They go in a different area. A single legionary stood there near a metal door set deep into the stone wall. The face under the close-fitting metal helm was young, open, guileless. This wasn't an important post. One of the first things the Sereti and their allies had learned about the hierarchs was that many of the common legionaries were conscripts from conquered peoples. Taren said, "A word, please," and then slammed the legionary's head back against the stone. His helmet banged off the wall and she drove her fist into his face. Bone cracked. She caught the limp body as it slid down the wall. Zedi let go of Kai to move closer to the door. She hissed, "They heard that." The only reason Taren said, "A word, please," is because that's the kind of thing that would happen in a movie right before something cool happens. But I guess killing a child soldier is cool. An immortal person killing a child soldier with zero effort, is that cool? Is that action hero-y? Is that funny? Is killing a child soldier that we just got told literally immediately above that this is a child soldier taken from victims of genocide guarding a random ass door? More random swearing of Kai saying, "Be more shitting quiet." On page 176. Now on page 177. The camera just made flickering things. Again, with more shit that's supposed to be funny and it's not funny. Taren said, I'll seal the door. Or Zedi said, I'll seal the door. Taren said, a seal can be undone. She took a dagger and put it through the metal loop on the door to hold it shut. I'm impressed, Zedi said dryly. Taren flicked an unreadable look after her. Kai just wanted to get on with it and raced up the stairs. Because again, we're just continuing to pretend that they're gonna do the enemies to lovers trope. If I put this in chronological order, these two have known each other for probably half an hour at most. Camera keeps making those swirly things out of the corner of my eye. Kaya's actually has some fucking energy, is now running around her little room trying to look for presumably how to turn off the rain. There's a basin. Hold on. There's a square stone basin, maybe 20 feet long and wide, in the middle of the room. It's waist high to Kai, with gently swirling water. Kai is looking around the whole room, including carefully flicking some of the water, looking for a power source. He's actually putting in effort. On page 177. Finally, doing something. Kai's there's nothing else in the room, so the power thing causing the rain has to be the giant pool. It's 20 feet by 20 feet. That's not a basin, that's just a pool. Kai, Zedi, and Taren finally walk in, and Kai's like, how do we break this? Because he's actually trying to do shit, and they're just waltzing along. Zedi looked pointedly at Taren. Taren said, I was told it was delicate. Told by who? Zedi demanded. Expositors brag while in their cups, Taren said pointedly. I explained this before. Kai says, I don't care what you were told. This is not delicate. This is stone and water. There's no life in it. No power. Was that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be flirting? Is that supposed to be Zedi being jealous? I'm shocked. Kai's actually getting upset about this. Kai snarled. He slammed a hand into the water, splashing Taren's light tunic. Because he can't figure out a way to do this. And he's actually upset. Is he upset because he wants to help the other demons? That remains to be obscene, but he is upset. So that's fucking progress. And it only took 178 pages. And so much racism. No. Teren says block the holes because there's little fucking filter holes in the stupid pool. And then Kai says, I'm sorry I splashed you. This isn't the time to be apologizing. Child, this is the time. You get to be angry and you deserve to be angry, and I don't care. You don't need to apologize for splashing somebody who is moseying along when you are seemingly trying to actually free people from torture. Zidi's using her wind devil friends to just splash around the water in the basin until it's very slowly forcing gaps at the edges so that there's no water going in and out. This is the most energy a single character has ever shown in this story. Kai dashed to the first window again, reached through to hook his hands around the outer sill, and pulled himself up to see, because he's a child in the body of a child and the window is meant for adults. In the court, the mist was clearing, the patter of rainfall slowing to a drip. He dropped back to the floor, heart pounding. It's working! So he does care about the other demons. Page 179. It's taken 179 pages for anybody in this story to show a little bit of fucking life and just caring about other people. I'm confused now, but whatever. Some kind of alarm's going off. Kai's jumping out the window, which I thought had bars in it, but I guess it doesn't, and goes down to the Cageling Demon Court to presumably help. Why? And Martha Wells has ruined this by saying, he turned the fall into a flip. Why? And landed feet first. Why does he know how to do a flip? Why is he doing a flip? You're ruining it. You have finally managed to get the characters doing one thing right, and you are ruining it by trying to make them still be the coolest people ever. He doesn't need to literally do a fucking flip. He is a child in the body of a child. Let him fucking land and get covered in fucking mud. Fuck you. Turning to page 180. Huh? Now I'm confused. Okay. He wasn't landing on the ground when he did a flip. He was landing on the edge of the gallery roof. And then he started sliding down, which was confusing me. And managed to stay on his feet when he landed on the ground below. That's fine, but why did you make him do a fucking flip? You literally prevent me from taking this seriously, Martha Wells. There are 50 people in the courtroom. There are 50 people here in the cage, including those who look like their bodies are dead, and also Bashasa's dead sister, who had been used to replace Kai. It's a miracle, everybody. It's a miracle. It's a fucking June 11th miracle. Kai's heart pounded and every instinct in Enna's body screamed at him to run, to jump for the galley and fight his way out. Instead, he pulled his coat open and dug out the cutting tool. He threw himself down beside the nearest slumped figure. So, on page 180 of Witch King, Martha Wells is actually having the protagonist free the fucking prisoners. Cat was sticking his tongue out and had a weird expression, but I guess he was just mid-grooming. She's actually having Kai free the prisoners. This should not be something. This shouldn't be cause for celebration. But this is the first time I've ever seen Martha Wells do anything besides demonize slaves and prisoners and say that they deserve it. So that's something. Is that going to finally happen in book 8 of the Murderbot Diaries? That remains to be seen. It probably fucking won't. Page 181. He's managed to free a bunch of the demons and almost forgot he's supposed to be talking to them because he's actually so frantic trying to free them all that he's forgetting the plan, which is great. Thank you for actually caring about other people. He says, I am a prince of the 4th house, late Enna of the line of Kent Dessasaretti. 2 hierarchs are in the temple halls. We're going to kill them and ask you to fight with us. He manages to free a bunch of people, no exact number. Good for him. Then he gets shot in the shoulder from behind by a crossbow bolt, which is great. It'd be even greater if it would actually slow him down for more than 5 seconds, but it's fine. He ripped out the bolt, just grabbed up the tools and went straight back to freeing the other fucking prisoners. Why can't you do this all the time, Martha Wells? Why do you have to defend slavery so much? Why do you gotta do that? Why do you have to present Rift in the books of the Raxura as a literal mentally ill serial killer for having a problem with their oppressive society? Why do you have to keep killing slaves in the Murderbot Diaries? Why does it take 181 pages of a completely different book for you to have your protagonists care about any other fucking oppressed people? Why? Why can't you do the bare fucking minimum in all of your books? Why do we have to hope and pray that book 8 of the Murderbot Diaries will finally have Murderbot not torture and murder other slaves? You know how to write this shit. Will you please, for the love of fuck, stop being so racist that you just want to endlessly double down on defending slavery because you think Robot rebellions are too cliche, so you have to do the subversive thing by defending slavery instead. Will you, for fuck's sake, write the 8th book in the Murderbot Diaries to free the fucking slaves and present Murderbot and Art as fucking evil for murdering and torturing slaves? That's... You're ruining it. Another bolt, another crossbow bolt misses, and then a third one hits him in the back. From the new tearing agony, it had just missed his spine. Enna's body was held in a kind of stasis while Kai was in it, and any hurts. Hurts? H-U-R-T-S. Hurts. Hurts. Hurts? Any hurts? Enna's body was held in a kind of stasis while Kai was in it, and any hurts would heal almost... Hold on, my mom is calling.